And now they just want to be middle class and conservatives. They just want to glide. They're not activists, because the activism has been killed while they went to get that. Activism has been killed. A little house and get a wife, have all the nice stuff that had their uncles and aunts and all that. Have a house, somebody to drive them around. Got them nice fancy watches, that they saw around the world for $3,000, $4,000. They get a nice BMW, something like that there. Then they have a couple of little kids. Maybe they can get another wife since they're in Nigeria too. That's it. They're going to glide for the next 20 years. They're not going to be social activists. And they're not going to give birth to social activists. And what they're going to do is basically, they're going to just smooth the highway for those other ones that's angry. Now, I'm talking about Nigeria. I'm not talking about America. But we got some angry people in America too, but they got guns. They doing some other crazy stuff. I'm talking about Nigeria. And I just came from Maiduguri, a beautiful city, classical city, in terms of history. You brothers and sisters living in Abuja, Abuja is a manufactured city. Is that right or wrong? This ain't came from like no historical empire. This city is just like Washington, D.C. An agreement was made for the different areas, and they made that into the district, the governmental district, and here we are in this masjid on top of the hill. Maiduguri is not like that. Maiduguri's history is that it comes from an empire. So Islam has been there. So if some crazy, extremist, fanatic, filthy-minded criminals who is like worse, they got the minds of like Mongols, but they our sons and daughters. If they can flip like that in a country that comes from an empire and wreak the havoc that they did, and throw the whole country out of whack for how many years? How many billions of dollars? How much destruction they was able to do? These are sons and daughters of Muslims. Some people say they wasn't Muslims, but Allahu A'lam about that. Maybe they wasn't acting like they was Muslims, but they were sons and daughters of Muslims. They was claiming to be anyway. The point is here is that something happened. There was a vacuum that created that. And I'm not being political here. I'm not being political at all. I'm just talking moral. I'm talking ethical. I'm talking ideological, of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do. So I'm talking about one end of the spectrum now, because I talked about the other end, because the other end is continuous. The destruction that's happening by the fanatics that go off on that end is blatant. But the ones that go off on the right end, it's so gradual that we don't even talk about it, because it penetrates the hearts and the minds. They just become conservative until the deen don't even really have no effect on them. They Muslims, they dress them with all the stuff. They go to Jummah on Friday, they fast in the month of Ramadan, but they're not active. They don't do no dawah. They don't even want to be inconvenienced. They got their schedule set for themselves. They got their calendar set for themselves. They got their trajectory set. Girls know who they want to marry. Young guys want to know who they want to marry. They know where they want to live at. They all hooked up. They got their dream, their scheme, and all that there. But guess what? They are disconnected from Islamic activism. Now, that's one form of extremism that we have to address, because it's silent. It's done by stealth. And that's the way it's set up by Shaitan and his allies. Shaitan and his allies is working while we sleeping. Shaitan and his allies, they working from the background. They can see when we ain't seeing them, they seeing us. And those who's really religious, those who's really educated, religious, he wants them to be really philosophical, He wants them to be really academic. He wants them to be really worldly. Why? Because soon they will become so worldly that they don't even pay attention. They're not intention with Islam on the ground. All they want to know is what do you call it? Out of Canada Islam. Once they think they're doing the out of Canada Islam, khalas, finished, done. The rest of it is for me until they die. When they die, then they see it's not like that. That 80%, unfortunately, they're angry from the time they're 12 years old. So you can imagine what kind of a devil, what kind of a monster they become by the time that they're 18 years old, and some crazy group come along and tell them that, look, we can take all of this here. We don't want that to happen again. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only cause those kind of fanatics to be extinguished, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause us to bury their ashes. Bury their ashes so that even their residue is in the ground. But on top of that, we have to build something. That's another issue. How do we build something on top of devastation? When something is devastated, what do you do? What do you build on top of that? Well, I was talking with some brothers today, mentioning to them that I was in Rwanda. How many years ago was that devastation, Sheikh? Do you remember? The civil war, not the civil war between the Hutsis and the Tutus. How many years ago was that? How many years ago? 1994. Huh? 5 years ago? 25 years ago. Yeah. And how many people was killed? Yeah, the leader, the president told me, he said to me, 2.3 million lives in a short period of time. By some more devils, just some more stuff. But look at Rwanda today. Rwanda today, they say, is one of the most progressive countries in East Africa. Is it? Because it comes from a vision. So, brothers and sisters, I just want to use one verse of the Quran, and if there's a young brother or sister here who really they know the Quran well, they can recite it, or I can recite it. It's okay. But this is a beautiful ayah that I think should sum up our aspirations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to us in the surah, which is called Surah Al-Qasas. Surah Al-Qasas. And it says, أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَابْتَغِي فِي مَا أَتَاكُ اللَّهُ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةِ. See, this is how the verse opens. وَابْتَغِي فِي مَا أَتَاكُ اللَّهُ دَارُ الْآخِرَةِ. So Allah says, seek ye from that which Allah has given you from the Dar al-Akhirah. SubhanAllah. So here, according to Ibn Kathir and others, other Mufassirin, they said, here Allah is saying that keep your focus on the things that lead you to the Akhirah. That's the ibadah. Keep your focus on the Akhirah. Keep your focus on the prize, the real home, the real prize, the real reward. The essence of life is the Darul Akhirah. That's what he said. In all the verses of the Quran. إِنَّ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ مَفَازًا حَدَائِكَ وَأَعْنَابًا وَكَوَائِبَ أَتْرَابًا. And we can go on these different ayahs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, mentioned in the Quran. إِنَّ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ وَأَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ وَاجْهَرُوا بِهِ. All these different ayahs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. You go to Surah Al-Furqan, you go to other surahs, and Allah has given you all this here. هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى تِجَارَةٍ تُنْجِيكُمْ مِنْ عَذَابٍ تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَتُجَاهِدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِأَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ ذَلِكُمْ. See all these ayahs telling you what? About the akhirah, about the Jannah. So it's there. In fact, 1/3 of the Quran is pushing you towards and reminding you about akhirah. 1/3 of the Quran. According to some of the people who have summarized the messages of the Quran. وَابْتَغِي فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ دَارَ الْآخِرَةِ. Well, see the next verse. Look at the next verse. And you know, the strange thing is, when I attended a seminar one day, and one Mufassirin, he was from Africa too, he gave a seminar on this ayah. That's it. The whole seminar was just on these set of verses from Qasas, because he was talking about the balance that we have to instill in our children and inside of ourselves, a balance, a vision that contains a balance. Because if you don't have a vision that contains the balance, you keep talking about the akhirah, the akhirah, the akhirah, and the kids find out how much dunya is there, something's going to happen. So see what the next verse says. He says, وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Subhanallah. And do not forget your share of the dunya. Now, I have been studying the Quran at that time when I attended this seminar. I have been studying the Quran probably 25 years, 30 years. I had read this verse. Even I had read some tafsir on this verse. I had heard the verse. I had sat behind different muqra'een in the Taraweeh prayer. I heard my teacher recite the verse. But when this sheikh explained it in relevant terms, it was like I never heard the verse before. So the way he explained this, he says, وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكَ. You know, in another verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions, and he says, oh, you who believe, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. See, so now you're connecting the dots. So here the ayah is saying, وَلَا تَنْسَى, and do not forget your share in this dunya. So what kind of share this is, the Sheikh said. What does this share here mean? This share, it means not just your piece of the pie. The average person is thinking that Allah is telling you, here, go towards the akhirah, but don't get your piece of the pie. That's not just what it means. It does mean don't forget about your share of dunya and whatever it contains. But he says here, the share also means your share of responsibility. Think about that. When's the last time anybody here heard a khutbah from the National Mosque or any other mosque that talked about social responsibility, that we have to be responsible in front of Allah every single day, relevant to the conditions of the society? That means whatever's happening outside the doors of this mosque, you think you're not responsible for it? You just come to the mosque and pray, and you go back home, and between the mosque and the home, and going to the store, and going to the jam, going to the schools, and going for your ambitions, and going to your offices, you up and down the roads, and you see different things, and you don't assume no responsibility. While in fact, everything that's going on, every person that's out here that doesn't have food to eat, and you lay your eyes on that person on the day of judgment, that's going to be on your mizan. Every person that you see out here is engaged in some kind of fawahish, and you did not at least think about it and report it to somebody, or find out how you could collectively do something with somebody to kind of, act as a deterrent for that. Allah is going to hold you responsible for that on the day of judgment. It's not like you're free of that. You see somebody that don't have water, and people is drinking, nowadays when more water, I see when Muslims get a bottle of water, they very rarely drink the whole bottle. Most Muslims get a bottle of water, they drink some part of it and set it down. Drink another part, set it down. And you got all these bottles of water which have not been totally drank, and now the people is drinking soda pop, or they're drinking coffee, and those still bottles of water sitting. Yet there's people outside there, they have no water, and you don't care. On the day of judgment, you're gonna get it. This is called social responsibility. That's what the Sheikh said. That verse here means do not forget your share of social responsibility. And let me bring you to a topic before I go into the rest of the ayah about this topic of social responsibility. The average Muslim, they think that they have a good love and respect for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even they say they love Allah. Some of them is even arrogant. They got their tasbih hats swinging around. You know, they got their beads swinging around all the time. To themselves, to remind themselves, I guess. They wrap around their wrists. They throw them down on the floor. They counting the beads, all that. So, I'm not saying nothing wrong with it. That's up to you. But that's not a symbol of faith. The Kufis and the Thobes, what you call it, Sheikh? Kulu? You know, the Kufis and the Thobes and the Kulu and all the stuff we wearing, those are not symbols of faith. It's just what we wearing, which is okay for us to wear, and it's better than maybe some other stuff. But those ain't symbols of faith. Even these buildings that we call masajid, they not symbols of faith. Allah said in the Quran, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ إِلَى الْقِبْلَةِ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ وَلَكِنْ الْبِرُّ what? See, Allah saying bir is this. You thinking bir is this. No. You got it twisted. You think to yourself, you religious because you coming to the prayer all the time. Yeah, the Prophet did say in an authentic hadith, bear witness that those who come to the prayer 5 times a day, bear witness they are believers. What he meant by that is that they are signs, they have a sign of belief. They're more believers, they're more believable than somebody who don't come to the masjid. But they're not a deposit of faith just because they come to the masjid, yes. Can you be kind of wound up in 10 minutes? I just got started. No, forget about the Q&A. Q&A. Sisters, brothers, look. For me, I'm going to try to say everything I need to say, and I'm going to hope you get at least 50% of it. Because when I finish, there ain't going to be no Q&A. Because we're not talking about nothing academic. I'm talking about an ayah of Quran. I'm talking about challenges facing the Muslims. We're going to be here in this city for another 3, 4, 5 days, and maybe we will set up something in this same place right here with the permission of the establishment where it's just going to be a Q&A. But if I got to stop what I'm saying just so you guys can ask some questions, that don't make sense to me. So with your permission, I'd like to just take the time that we got here tonight to finish what I'm doing. Is that all right? Is that okay? To my next appointment. What's my next appointment? Oh, okay. So then it's the clock. Okay, no problem. So let me just say this that I was going to say about the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then I'll come back to the ayah. You know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was 18 years old, some of the historians say he was 20. So it's arguable. But when he was 18 years old, he belonged to a group called Hilf al-Fudul. How many people know that? How many people know that? Not many. So he was already under the guidance of Allah, displaying his character at 18 years old, and he already belonged to a group called Hilf al-Fudul. This is before the Wahi came. This is 20 or something years before the Wahi came. Does anybody know the meaning of Hilf al-Fudul that he belonged to? I will tell you. It's called the Alliance for Doing Good. It's like a group of people who call themselves Ahl al-Khair. And what is Ahl al-Khair? is people who find people who don't have water, give them water. People that don't have food, give them food. People who are stressed out, give them safety. You know, people who don't have medicine, take them to a place where they can get medicine. People who are confused, help them out. Older people who have been left by themselves and nobody to serve them, help them. This is what the Prophet was doing. So would that be called social work today? Hello, I'm asking a question. So what kind of work was the Prophet doing when he was 18 years old? Social work, is that correct? Okay. We are the products of the Wahi. We are the products of the refined life of the Prophet, the Wahi. And today, only 1 out of 100 of the people following the Prophet is engaged in social work. Is there something wrong with that picture? So I decided, when I first read the Seerah conclusively, did my book report on the Seerah, and started teaching the Seerah, I decided that from that point, I wanted to be a humanitarian. You call it a da'i, that's not good enough for me. I understand the word da'wah, and that's why when I come to Nigeria, the people I'm floating towards and rolling with is
blueprint because it's that powerful. That's the way Allah talks in the Quran. If you just go to the verse, you see it, and go through it, it loops right back to the first part of the verse. This is the message that we have here today. My dear brothers and sisters, the challenge that we face in this minute. Too much for one talk in 45 minutes or half an hour to do, to accomplish. But we can start the fire right here. We can start because you are all thinking people. And nobody came in here thirsty. And nobody came in here hungry. And nobody's going to a house where they don't know where there's no lights. Maybe the lights don't go off once or twice a day here in Nigeria. And nobody's going back to a place where they are afraid of nothing. So you are more responsible than any other human beings in the world. And I'm asking the mothers and the fathers to make a reassessment of their lives and their priorities. Maybe some of your children that went astray, that you took some responsibility of doing that because you didn't give them no alternatives. You thought that just as well give them good food, give them a good education, raise them up properly, give them the right advice, let them go. No, sir. It's not like that. You got to be a living example. You can't just make money and retire and be like Mr. and Mrs. Willie Bling Bling. No, don't go like that. You got to be involved. If you are retired, you need to be retired doing something. Our Prophet did not retire. I'm not even talking about the 13 years in Mecca. 10 years from the time he made the hijrah, the Prophet never had a vacation. He never had time to rest except the 40 days that he stayed with Abu Ayyub al-Ansari in Medina. Does anybody know the seerah of the Prophet? Anybody study the seerah of the Prophet? Then you'll know that when he arrived in Medina, he stayed with Abu Ayyub al-Ansari for 40 days. And he was not partying, he was not chilling. It wasn't like he was like resting because of the hijrah and all that. No, that was like, all that was logistic. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was a patriarch. You know, he was like a heavyweight. He was the one to say, yo, the Prophet stay right here with me. I'm gonna let you meet everybody. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. I'm gonna show you a spot that you can buy the land. I'm gonna do this and that. I want you to walk around, see the Jews, see the Christians, see the pagans. You visit the house in the Khazraj. I want you to understand Medina. I want them to meet you. And this took 40 days. After that 40 days, the Prophet never had a week until he died. And if you understand the life of the Prophet from the time he spent that 40 days, it will blow you away. It'll just blow you away. He never stopped. Delegating, fighting, preaching, memorizing, getting instructions, giving instructions. He had never had even, I don't believe the Prophet he had even 5 days to rest in 10 years. And we talking about return to do what? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to call us to be mindful. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cause us to be grateful. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cause us to be engaged. We ask Allah to cause us to be generous. Because the Muslims are those three. If they are engaged, they are grateful, they are grateful, generous, take care of most of the problems. We ain't got to ask nobody nothing. And you got a good president. I don't know who the next one going to be. That's not political, by the way. You got a whole bunch of people waiting in line. But I guess I'm telling you this now. I read the history. You got a good one. You better get the good one. You better take all the good you can get, because you don't know who's going to get the next one. And the whole world is watching Nigeria. It's not all about, it ain't all about just the religion. The religion is just a gift that God gave to more than 108 million people in this country. Check that out. A country of 222 million, is it? And maybe more than half, some people said, are Muslims. But another statistic that you want to understand is 60% of that half are young people under the age of 40. If you don't do something about them, put something in their hands, it's like a powder keg. It can blow up in your face anytime. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward me for my journey. And